Hey, Psych2Goers, have you ever felt your heart racing before a big presentation? Or noticed your palms getting sweaty? When you're about to meet someone new, these physical reactions are your body's way of responding to anxiety. But what if we told you that anxiety doesn't just affect you in those brief moments? It can actually hijack your entire mind and body in ways you might not even realize. Anxiety isn't just about feeling nervous or worried, it's a complex condition that can take control of your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations, making everyday life feel like an uphill battle. So, what does it really mean when anxiety hijacks your system? How does it manifest in your daily life? And why does it feel so overwhelming today? We're going to explore the many ways anxiety can take over your mind and body, helping you understand what's happening beneath the surface, whether you're someone who experiences anxiety yourself or you're trying to understand what a loved one is going through. This video will give you insight into the invisible struggle that millions of people face every single day. Before we dive in, remember that Psych2Go is all about creating a supportive community where people can share their experiences. If you relate to what we're discussing today, we encourage you to share your story in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to feel less alone now. Let's explore how anxiety hijacks your mind and body. Number one, your brain gets stuck in threat detection mode. Have you ever watched a suspenseful movie where you're constantly on edge waiting for something bad to happen? That heightened state of alertness is similar to what people with anxiety experience, except it's not just during a 2-hour movie. It's all day, every day. Your brain has a built-in alarm system called the amygdala, which is designed to detect threats and keep you safe when you're facing real danger, like a car speeding toward you. This system is incredibly useful. It triggers your fight or flight response, giving you the adrenaline you need to react quickly. But when you have anxiety, this alarm system becomes overactive. It starts seeing threats everywhere, even when there aren't any. A simple email from your boss becomes a sign you're getting fired. A friend not texting back means they hate you. A slight headache convinces you that you have a serious illness. Your brain gets stuck in this constant state of scanning for danger, interpreting neutral or even positive situations as potential threats. This hypervigilance is exhausting because your mind never gets to rest. Imagine having a smoke detector that goes off every time you boil water. Sure, it's doing its job of detecting something, but it's responding to a false alarm. People with anxiety live with this faulty alarm system, constantly reacting to perceived dangers that others around them don't even notice. This doesn't mean the fear isn't real to them. Their brain is genuinely convinced that these threats exist, making it incredibly difficult to rationalize their way out of anxious thoughts. Number two, your body stays in permanent fight or flight mode. Do you remember learning about the fight or flight response in school? It's that surge of energy you get when facing danger. Your heart pounds, your breathing quickens, and your muscles tense up, ready for action. This response is supposed to be temporary, helping you deal with immediate threats before your body returns to normal. But when anxiety hijacks your system, your body doesn't get that memo to stand down. Instead, you remain in this heightened state of arousal for extended periods, sometimes days, weeks, or even months. Your heart might race even when you're sitting still watching television. Your muscles stay tense, causing chronic pain in your neck, shoulders, and back. Your breathing remains shallow, depriving your brain of the oxygen it needs to function optimally. This constant activation of your stress response system takes a serious toll on your body. Imagine revving a car engine at maximum speed for hours on end. Eventually, something's going to break down. The same thing happens with your body when it's stuck in fight or flight mode. You might develop digestive issues because your body diverts resources away from digestion. When it thinks you're in danger, you could experience frequent headaches as your muscles remain contracted for too long. Your immune system might weaken because chronic stress suppresses immune function, making you more susceptible to illnesses. What makes this even more challenging is that these physical symptoms can create a feedback loop. The racing heart and shallow breathing make you feel more anxious, which triggers more physical symptoms, which makes you even more anxious. It becomes a cycle that feels impossible to break, and unlike a real threat that you can run from or fight against, anxiety doesn't have a clear enemy to defeat, leaving your body in a constant state of readiness, with nowhere to direct that energy. Number three, your thoughts spiral out of control. Have you ever had one worried thought that suddenly snowballed into dozens of catastrophic scenarios within minutes? This is called catastrophic thinking, and it's one of the hallmark ways anxiety hijacks your mind. It starts innocently enough. Maybe you make a small mistake at work, a typo in an email, or forgetting to CC someone on a message. For most people, this would be a minor blip, barely worth remembering. But when anxiety takes over, that small mistake becomes the first domino in a chain of catastrophic predictions. You think, my boss probably thinks I'm incompetent, which leads to they're probably going to fire me, which spirals into I'll never find another job. Then I'll lose my apartment, and end up alone and homeless within seconds, you've gone from a simple typo to imagining your entire life falling apart. This isn't because you're being dramatic or irrational, it's because anxiety distorts your thinking patterns, making worst case scenarios feel not just possible, but probable. Your mind becomes like a screenwriter for disaster movies, constantly generating new plots where everything goes wrong. What's particularly exhausting about this mental hijacking is that you often know on some level that these thoughts are extreme. You might even tell yourself you're being ridiculous. But knowing that doesn't stop the thoughts from coming. They flood your mind uninvited and unwelcome, creating a mental noise that makes it hard to focus on anything else. You might find yourself unable to concentrate on a conversation because your mind is busy running through all the things that could go wrong tomorrow. You might read the same paragraph book 5 times because anxious thoughts keep interrupting. This cognitive hijacking also affects your memory. When your mind is consumed with worry, there's less mental space for encoding new memories or retrieving existing ones. You might walk into a room and forget why you went there or struggle to remember what someone just told you. This isn't early onset dementia or a sign that something's seriously wrong with your brain. It's simply anxiety monopolizing your cognitive resources, leaving less available for everyday mental tasks. Number 4, your sleep becomes disrupted or impossible. Have you ever laid in bed exhausted, but unable to fall asleep? Because your mind won't stop racing. This is one of the most frustrating ways anxiety hijacks your body, because sleep is when you're supposed to recover and recharge. But anxiety doesn't respect bedtime. When your head hits the pillow and the distractions of the day fade away, anxious thoughts often become louder without work, tasks, social interactions, or other activities to occupy your mind. Anxiety rushes in to fill the void. Suddenly, you're replaying every conversation from the day, analyzing what you said, and worrying about how it was received. You're thinking about everything you need to do tomorrow, next week, next month. Your mind jumps from topic to topic, never settling, never quieting. Even if you do manage to fall asleep, anxiety can disrupt the quality of your rest. People with anxiety often experience lighter, less restorative sleep. They might wake up multiple times during the night or have vivid, stressful dreams that leave them feeling like they never truly rested at all. You might sleep for 8 hours, but wake up feeling like you barely slept at all because your body remained in a state of tension throughout the night. On the flip side, some people with anxiety experience hypersomnia, sleeping excessively as a way to escape their anxious thoughts. When you're asleep, you don't have to deal with the constant worry and fear, so sleep becomes a refuge. You might find yourself sleeping 10, 12, even 14 hours and still feeling tired. This isn't laziness. It's your mind and body being so overwhelmed by anxiety that unconsciousness feels like the only relief. The cruel irony is that poor sleep makes anxiety worse. When you're sleep deprived, your emotional regulation suffers, your ability to cope with stress decreases, and your anxiety symptoms intensify. This creates another vicious cycle where anxiety disrupts your sleep, and lack of sleep amplifies your anxiety, making each night a battle and each day harder to face. Number 5, social situations become minefields. Do you ever feel completely drained after social interactions, even ones you enjoyed? For people whose minds and bodies have been hijacked by anxiety, social situations can feel like navigating a minefield, where any step might trigger an explosion of anxious thoughts and feelings. Before the event, anxiety might convince you that you'll embarrass yourself, that people will judge you, or that you'll have nothing interesting to say. You might spend hours or even days worrying about an upcoming social gathering, playing out scenarios in your mind, and considering excuses to cancel during the interaction. Anxiety keeps you hyper aware of everything you're saying and doing. You monitor your facial expressions, worry about whether you're making appropriate eye contact, and analyze every word before it leaves your mouth. This constant self-monitoring makes it nearly impossible to be present in the conversation while you're busy worrying about how you're coming across. You're missing what the other person is actually saying. After the event, the anxiety often continues or even intensifies. This is called post-event processing, where you replay the entire interaction in your mind, focusing on everything you think you did wrong. You remember that joke that didn't land quite right and convince yourself everyone thought you were stupid. You recall a moment of silence and interpret it as proof that you're boring. You analyze the way someone said goodbye and decide they couldn't wait to get away from you. This constant analysis is exhausting, and it can make you want to avoid social situations altogether. But isolation often makes anxiety worse because humans are social creatures who need connection. So you're caught between the anxiety of engaging with others and the loneliness of avoiding them. What many people don't realize is that this social anxiety isn't about being shy or introverted. It's about your anxiety hijacking your ability to connect with others in a natural, relaxed way. You might genuinely want spend time with people, but your anxious mind tells you it's dangerous, that you'll be rejected or humiliated. This disconnect between what you want and what your anxiety allows creates internal conflict that adds another layer of distress to an already challenging situation. Number 6, your body develops physical symptoms that feel like serious illness. Have you ever experienced chest pain and immediately worried you were having a heart attack or felt dizzy and convinced yourself something was seriously wrong? With your brain, when anxiety hijacks your body, it can create physical symptoms that are so intense and so real that they feel like signs of serious medical conditions. Your chest might tighten, making it hard to breathe. You might feel your heart skipping beats or pounding so hard you can see your shirt moving. You could experience numbness or tingling in your hands and feet, dizziness, nausea, stomach pain, muscle tremors, or a feeling of unreality, like you're disconnected from your body. These aren't imaginary symptoms, they're real physical sensations caused by your anxiety activating your stress response system. But because they feel so similar to symptoms of serious illnesses, they often trigger even more anxiety, creating what's known as health anxiety or hypochondria. You might find yourself constantly checking your pulse, Googling symptoms at 3 in the morning, or making frequent trips to the doctor, convinced that something is terribly wrong. Medical tests come back normal, which should be reassuring. But instead, your anxious mind might think the doctors missed something, or that you have a rare condition that's hard to diagnose. This preoccupation with your physical health can become all-consuming. You might avoid exercise because it makes your heart race, which triggers anxiety. You could become hyper-aware of every bodily sensation, interpreting normal things like your heartbeat or digestion as signs of illness. You might carry medication with you everywhere just in case, or avoid certain places or activities because you fear having a medical emergency. What makes this particularly challenging is that the worry itself creates more physical symptoms. The more you focus on your racing heart, the faster it beats. The more you worry about feeling dizzy, the more lightheaded you become. Your body responds to your anxious thoughts by producing the very symptoms you fear, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that reinforces your belief that something is physically wrong. Number 7, your ability to make decisions becomes paralyzed. Have you ever stood in front of a menu unable to choose what to order because every option feels overwhelming? Now imagine feeling that way about nearly every decision in your life. When anxiety hijacks your mind, it can create decision paralysis, where even simple choices feel impossible. And high stakes, your anxious brain sees potential negative outcomes in every direction. You might spend 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear because you worry about being overdressed, underdressed, too casual, or too formal. You could agonize over sending a simple text message, crafting and recrafting it dozens of times, worried about how it will be interpreted. Bigger decisions become even more paralyzing. Should you take that job opportunity? Anxiety floods you with fears about failing. What if you're not good enough? What if you make the wrong choice? What if you regret it? But then anxiety also attacks the alternative. What if you miss out on something great? What if this was your only chance? What if you're making a mistake by not deciding? You're damned if you do, and damned if you don't. According to your anxious mind, this indecisiveness isn't a personality flaw or a sign of weakness. It's your anxiety hijacking your executive function, the part of your brain responsible for planning, reasoning, and making choices. When you're anxious, your brain becomes so focused on identifying threats and avoiding negative outcomes that it struggles to weigh options rationally and make decisions confidently. The mental energy required to make even small decisions when you're anxious is enormous, and after making several decisions throughout the day, you might experience decision fatigue, where you simply can't handle one more choice. This is why people with anxiety might seem inflexible or resistant to spontaneity. It's not that they don't want to be flexible, it's that they're already overtaxed. Mental resources can't handle the additional burden of unexpected decisions. What compounds this problem is that avoiding decisions doesn't make the anxiety go away. It usually makes it worse. The unmade decision lingers in your mind, creating more worry and stress than actually making the choice would have. But anxiety convinces you that making the wrong decision would be catastrophic, so you remain stuck in this uncomfortable limbo, unable to move forward, but unable to let go. Number 8, your emotions become overwhelming and unpredictable. Do you ever feel like your emotions are a roller coaster that you can't control? When anxiety hijacks your emotional regulation system, your feelings can become intense, unpredictable, and seemingly disproportionate to the situation. You might find yourself crying over something small, like spilling coffee or dropping your keys. These minor inconveniences become the final straw that breaks through your carefully maintained composure, releasing a flood of emotions that have been building beneath the surface. Or you might experience sudden waves of irritability, snapping at people you care about over trivial matters. You don't want to be short-tempered. You might even recognize in the moment that you're overreacting, but you can't seem to stop yourself. The anxiety has depleted your emotional reserves, leaving you with no buffer between stimulus and response. Alternatively, you might feel emotionally numb like you're watching your life happen from behind a glass wall. This numbness isn't peace or calm, it's your mind's way of protecting itself from overwhelming anxiety by shutting down emotional responses. Altogether, you might go through the motions of daily life without really feeling anything, unable to access joy, sadness, or even fear. What makes this emotional hijacking so distressing is the unpredictability. You never know when you might have an emotional outburst or shut down completely. This unpredictability makes you anxious about your own emotions, creating yet another layer of worry. You might start avoiding situations where you fear you might become emotional, which can lead to increasing isolation. And the cycle continues. Your loved ones might not understand why you seem so emotional, or conversely, so detached. They might tell you're overreacting or being too sensitive, or they might express concern that you seem distant or disconnected. These well meaning observations often make you feel worse because you're already struggling with feeling out of control, adding shame and self judgment to the mix. Number 9, your motivation and energy disappear. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed that you can't bring yourself to start even simple tasks? When anxiety hijacks your system, it doesn't just make you worried, it can completely drain your motivation and energy, leaving you feeling paralyzed. You might have a to-do list full of tasks that you know need to be done, but the thought of starting any of them fills you with dread. Your anxious mind magnifies how difficult each task will be, how much could go wrong, and how inadequate you'll feel while doing it. So instead of starting, you procrastinate, which creates more anxiety about falling behind, which further depletes your motivation. This isn't laziness, despite what you or others might think. It's your anxiety consuming so much of your mental and physical energy that there's little left for anything else. Imagine your energy as a battery. Anxiety constantly drains that battery, running in the background like apps on your phone that you forgot to close. By the time you need energy for productive tasks, your battery is already at 15%. You might accomplish one small thing and feel completely exhausted, as if you've run a marathon when really you've just answered a few emails or cleaned one room. This lack of motivation can affect every area of your life. Work projects pile up because you can't find the energy to tackle them. Relationships suffer because you don't have the bandwidth to reach out or make plans. Hobbies and activities you once enjoyed sit abandoned because even thinking about them feels exhausting. Your home might become cluttered or messy, not because you don't care, but because cleaning feels like an insurmountable task. What's particularly frustrating is that rest doesn't seem to help. You might spend an entire weekend doing nothing, trying to recharge, but still feel depleted on Monday morning. That's because anxiety doesn't give your mind and body the true rest they need. Even when you're physically resting, your mind is still running, your stress response is still activated, and your energy continues to drain. People might not understand why you seem so tired all the time. They might suggest you just need to exercise more, get more sleep, or try harder. But when anxiety has hijacked your system, these well meaning suggestions feel impossible to implement. You don't have the energy to exercise, you can't sleep properly because of anxiety, and you are trying hard just to get through each day. Number 10, you lose confidence in your own perceptions and judgments. Have you ever questioned whether something really happened the way you remember it, or doubted your own feelings about a situation? When anxiety hijacks your mind, it can make you doubt your own perceptions, judgments, and even reality. This is sometimes called anxious self doubt, and it can be deeply destabilizing. You might second guess every decision you make, wondering if you made the right choice even after the decision is made and can't be changed. You replay conversations trying to figure out what someone really meant because you don't trust your initial interpretation. You might ask others for reassurance, constantly seeking external validation because you can't trust your own judgment. This constant self-doubt extends to your feelings too. You might think, am I really upset about this, or am I overreacting? Is my anxiety valid, or am I being irrational? Should I feel this way, or is something wrong with me? This internal questioning prevents you from honoring your own emotions and experiences, making you feel disconnected from yourself. In relationships, this self-doubt can be particularly problematic. You might tolerate treatment that makes you uncomfortable because you convince yourself you're being too sensitive. You might not speak up about your needs because you doubt whether they're legitimate. You could stay in situations that aren't serving you because your anxiety tells you that your dissatisfaction isn't valid. The irony is that people with anxiety are often highly perceptive and intuitive, but anxiety hijacks this perceptiveness, turning it against you. Instead of trusting your gut instincts, you question them. Instead of having confidence in your observations, you doubt them. You become disconnected from your own inner wisdom, which is often trying to guide you toward what you need. This loss of self trust can make you dependent on others for decision-making and validation, which can create unhealthy relationship dynamics and further erode your sense of self. It becomes another way that anxiety takes control, not just of your thoughts and feelings, but of your fundamental sense of who you are and what you know to be true. So there you have it, 10 significant ways that anxiety can hijack your mind and body, from keeping your threat detection system in overdrive to eroding your confidence in your own perceptions. Anxiety affects every aspect of your being. If you related to many or all of these points, please know that you're not alone. Millions of people experience anxiety. And while it can feel overwhelming, and all-consuming, it is something that can be managed and treated. Understanding how anxiety affects you is actually the first step toward reclaiming control over your mind and body. When you recognize what's happening, you can start to develop strategies and seek support to address it, whether that's through therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, mindfulness practices, or a combination of approaches. Remember that experiencing anxiety doesn't make you weak, broken, or defective. Your brain is trying to protect you, even if it's being overzealous about it. Be patient and compassionate with yourself, as you would be with a friend going through the same struggle. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from understanding how anxiety works. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Psych2Go for more content about mental health, psychology, and emotional well-being. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. What's your experience with anxiety? Which of these 10 points resonated most with you? And what strategies have you found helpful in managing anxiety? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to feel less alone and more hopeful about their own journey. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself. And remember that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. We'll see you in the next video.